Cyber Threat Brief for March 24, 2026. ConnectWise and Citrix patch critical remote access flaws while attackers weaponize Trivy scanner and supply chain attack stealing CI/CD secrets. Microsoft's Defender stops GPO-based ransomware pre-deployment. Initial access broker sentenced to 81 months for enabling $9M in ransomware damage. IRS phishing campaign hits 29,000 users with RMM, remote monitoring and management, malware. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cyber Threat Brief March 24, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. ConnectWise Screen Connect Cryptographic Flaw. CVE 2026-3564. ConnectWise patched a critical signature verification flaw in Screen Connect that lets attackers extract machine keys to authenticate sessions without authorization. The vulnerability affects the remote access platform widely deployed by MSPs and IT teams for remote support. Successful exploitation grants elevated privileges on affected instances. Action: update Screen Connect immediately. Review access logs for unauthorized sessions since late February. MSPs should prioritize this across all client deployments. Sources: Checkpoint Research. Citrix NetScaler Memory Leak. CVE 2026-3055. Citrix warns of a critical unauthenticated memory overread flaw, allowing remote attackers to leak sensitive data from NetScaler ADC and gateway appliances. The vulnerability, CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 9.3, affects devices configured as SAML identity providers. Exploitation requires no authentication, but needs specific SAML IDP configuration. Rapid7 notes the similarity to previous Citrix bleed attacks that led to widespread compromise. CVE 2026-4368, a race condition causing session mix-up, was also patched. Action: patch NetScaler ADC/gateway to 14.166, 59 or 13, 162, 23 immediately. Check configuration for SAML IDP profile with command grep add authentication SAML IDP profile /nsconfig/ns. Conf. Assume active exploitation given Citrix's history. CVE 2023-4966 all exploited in wild, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Sources: The Hacker News. Zimbra cross-site scripting under active exploitation. CVE 2025-66376. Zimbra confirms active exploitation of a stored cross-site scripting flaw in Collaboration Suite. Malicious emails execute code when viewed in the classic UI, exposing session cookies and mailbox data. The vulnerability was added to CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, KEV Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog, with deadline April 1. EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, score of 0. 193rd percentile, reflects real-world abuse. Action: upgrade to Zimbra 10.1.13 or 10.0.18. Migrate users from classic UI to modern interface. Review email access logs for suspicious activity since February. Federal agencies must comply with KEV deadline. Sources: Checkpoint Research. Langflow remote code execution exploited within 20 hours. CVE 2026-33017. Attackers weaponized a critical unauthenticated remote code execution flaw in Langflow, an open-source AI agent framework, within 20 hours of disclosure. The vulnerability allows arbitrary Python execution on exposed instances through a single crafted request. Checkpoint IPS provides protection. EPSS scores 0.5, 64th percentile. Action: update Langflow immediately. Remove public exposure for Langflow instances behind VPN/firewall. Check logs for exploitation indicators since March 3. Sources: Checkpoint Research. The Hacker News. Ubiquiti Unify Path Traversal. CVE 2026-22557. Ubiquiti addressed a maximum severity unauthenticated path traversal bug in Unify network application. Version 10.1.85 and earlier. The flaw allows attackers to access files, compromise accounts, and potentially seize control of underlying systems managing access points, switches, and gateways. Action: update Unify network application to latest version. Review controller access logs for file access anomalies. Sources: Checkpoint Research. GNU Inet Utils Telnet RCE, CVE 2026-32746. GNU Inet Utils Telnet is affected by a CVSS 9.8 remote code execution flaw impacting all versions up to 2.7. The vulnerability allows remote attackers to trigger code execution. EPSS. Score 0.0, 7th percentile. Action: disable Telnet D services immediately. Migrate to SSH for remote access. If Telnet D is required for legacy systems, isolate behind firewall with strict access controls. Sources: Checkpoint Research. CISA Kev. CVE 2026-20131, CVE 2026-20131, added to CISA KEV catalog with deadline March 22, now overdue for federal agencies. The vulnerability is ransomware linked with EPSS score 0.6, 71st percentile. Action: federal agencies must patch immediately if not already compliant. Private sector should prioritize given ransomware association. Sources: Checkpoint Research. Next section: Ransomware and Extortion. Microsoft Defender blocks GPO-based ransomware pre-deployment. Microsoft published a case study showing how Defender's predictive shielding stopped a human-operated ransomware attack targeting a large educational institution, 2,000-plus devices. The attacker weaponized group policy objects to tamper with security controls and distribute ransomware via scheduled tasks. Defender detected the attack before ransomware deployment and proactively hardened 700 devices against malicious GPO propagation. The attack progression: unmanaged device with compromised domain admin, Active Directory enumeration on day 1, credential access and lateral movement on day 2, attack disruption initiated, GPO weaponization on day 5. Defender blocked 97% of encryption activity, with 0 machines encrypted via GPO path. Action: review GPO modifications for scheduled task creation or security product tampering. Enable attack disruption in Defender for compromised accounts. Monitor for AD Explorer usage and NTDS dumps. Implement least privilege for domain admin accounts. Sources: Microsoft Security Blog. Russian initial access broker sentenced to 81 months. Alexei Volkov, 26, of St. Petersburg, Russia, was sentenced to 81 months in prison for enabling Yanluoing ransomware attacks causing $9 in actual losses and $24 in intended losses. Volkov operated as an initial access broker, finding vulnerabilities in corporate networks and selling access to ransomware groups. Co-conspirators deployed malware, encrypted victim data, and demanded ransoms, sometimes tens of millions, in cryptocurrency. Volkov received a share of ransom payments. He agreed to pay $9.16 restitution and forfeit equipment. Arrested in Rome in January 2024, extradited to U.S., and pleaded guilty in November 2025. Sources: data breaches. Net the Hacker News DOJ. Third Black Cat negotiator charged U.S. Prosecutors charged Angelo Martino, 41, as a third ransomware negotiator for Black Cat Alpha, helping extort higher payouts from at least 10 victims. Martino worked as a negotiator for Digital Mint. Authorities seized $9.2 in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Monero, Ripple, Solana, Stellar, from 21 wallets, plus luxury vehicles and properties. He faces up to 20 years in prison. 2 other incident responders, Ryan Clifford Goldberg and Kevin Tyler Martin, pleaded guilty in December 2025. Digital Mint terminated both Martino and Martin, stating the actions violated company policy and ethical standards. Sources: The Hacker News. Australian Council obtains injunction against ransomware actors. Fairfield Council, Western Sydney, obtained a court injunction prohibiting publication of stolen data following an October 2025 ransomware incident. The council's servers containing personal, financial, and property information about councillors, ratepayers, residents, and staff were illegally accessed. Attackers left a ransom note threatening to publish data if the council didn't communicate via a specified chat room. The council communicated with anonymous hackers by sending Dropbox links into the chat room. The court issued interim orders restraining the defendants from placing information at any internet location, including dark web, transmitting or disclosing data, or promoting download links. The injunction follows a similar approach used by Qantas in 2025. Sources: data breaches. Net. Triotech International reverses materiality assessment. California-based semiconductor testing firm, Triotech, initially shrugged off a March 11 ransomware attack at its Singapore subsidiary as immaterial. The company reversed course March 18 after stolen data was disclosed publicly. The incident affected certain files on the network. Triotech detected the incident, took systems offline, and called in cybersecurity help. Singapore law enforcement was notified. The company claims business operations remain largely unscathed and expects no significant impact to Q1 financial results ending March 31. Sources: The Register Security Week. 3.7 million telehealth patients affected by 2 breaches. Threat actor, stuck in 2019, listed patient data from Open Loop Health 1, 6M patients, and Zelthy 2. 1M patients for sale on hacking forums. Open-loop data included names, email addresses, postal addresses, heights, weights, medical information, and biometric data. Zelthy data included full names, email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, driver's licenses, and patient information. Open-loop notified Texas AG, 68,160 affected, and California AG, stating breach occurred January 7-8. According to Stuck in 2019, Open-loop agreed to pay and the data were deleted. Only 2 proof samples remain. Zelthy reportedly locked the attacker out but did not reply to emails. Zelthy listing remains active on forums with driver's license images and PHI. Sources, data breaches. Net. WoundTech breach exposes 928K wound care patients. Florida-based Wound Technology Network was breached December 6-9, 2025 by Fulcrum Sec threat actors. The attack exposed 928,073 unique patient ID from Snowflake database exports spanning 4+ years of wound care operations. Exfiltrated data includes clinical wound assessment notes, wound photographs, JPEG/PNG, PDF referral/intake documents, 86,377 named patients with full demographics, and approximately 300 SSNs. Fulcrum Sec provided extensive forensic analysis showing they extracted 335 gigabytes from a 6.7 terabytes S3 bucket. Entry vector was a vulnerable React host with plaintext AWS/database credentials. WoundTech detected the intrusion and patched within 24 hours, making this the first time any company ever has rotated AWS credentials before we completed exfiltration. But Fulcrum Sec had already exfiltrated over 100 gigabytes. Fulcrum Sec offered WoundTech the opportunity to redact patient data before publication. Notifications to regulators and patients occurred more than 3 months after discovery. Sources, data breaches. Net. Next section, business and infrastructure threats. Trivy supply chain attack spreads to Docker and GitHub team PCP hackers backdoored Trivy, a widely used open-source vulnerability scanner with 33,800+ GitHub stars and 100M+ Docker Hub downloads, injecting credential-stealing malware into official releases and GitHub actions. The breach has triggered cascading supply chain compromises as impacted projects failed to rotate secrets, resulting in a self-propagating worm dubbed canister worm. Attackers pushed malicious Docker images, tags 0.69.5 and 0.69.6, on March 22 without corresponding GitHub releases. Team PCP gained access by compromising Aqua Security's GitHub organization due to incomplete containment of a previous incident. On March 22, attackers re-established access to Aqua's Aquasecom GitHub organization, proprietary code separate from public Aqua Security org, adding prefix tpcp docs to all 44 repositories and changing descriptions to Team PCP owns Aqua Security. The compromise stemmed from a service account, Argon Dev Ops MGT, using a long-lived personal access token without MFA, multi-factor authentication protection. Researchers believe hackers obtained the PAT using Team PCP Cloud Stealer, which collects GitHub tokens, SSH keys, and cloud credentials. Action. If using Trivy, immediately verify version 0.69.3 or earlier is from legitimate sources. Rotate all GitHub tokens, SSH keys, AWS credentials, and Cloud API keys exposed to Trivy installations since March 1. Check for version 0.69.5 or 0.69.6 in CI/CD workflows and remove immediately. Scan for IOCs related to Team PCP Cloud Stealer. Review GitHub actions for malicious workflow modifications. Replace service account PATs with GitHub apps, shorter token lifespan, MFA support. This is a critical supply chain event affecting thousands of organizations. Sources, Bleeping Computer, the Hacker News Security Week dark reading. IRS phishing campaign deploys RMM, remote monitoring and management. Malware to 29,000 users. Microsoft reports fresh tax-themed phishing campaigns capitalizing on U.S. tax season to harvest credentials and deploy RMM malware. A large-scale campaign on February 10 affected 29,000 users across 10,000 organizations, 95% in U.S. Emails impersonated IRS claiming irregular tax returns were filed under recipient's EFIN, instructing users to download IRS Transcript Viewer. Emails sent via Amazon SES contained a button redirecting to smartvault.im, masquerading as Smart Vault document platform. The site used Cloudflare to block bots and serve malicious Screen Connect payloads to human users. Other campaigns delivered Connect Wise Screen Connect, Datto, and Simple Help RMM tools for persistent access. Campaigns used CPA lures, QR codes, W-2 forms, and tax-themed domains. FAS platforms Energy 365, hundreds of thousands of daily emails, and sneaky log/crados were used for credential harvesting. Targets spanned financial services, 19%, technology, 18%, retail, 15%, manufacturing, and healthcare. Action block domains, smartvault.im, and 2 additional domains. See show notes for the full list. Sources, The Hacker News. Railway PAS abused for AI-powered phishing. An AI-powered phishing campaign, tied to Railway cloud hosting service, has compromised hundreds of organizations in the past few weeks. Huntress researchers report the campaign exploited Microsoft's device authentication flow, smart TVs, printers, terminals, to obtain valid OAuth tokens lasting up to 90 days without passwords or MFA. The campaign uses unique email templates and domains, no duplicates, suggesting AI generation. Starting March 3, compromise tempo surged from dozens per day to hundreds. Huntress issued a conditional access policy update to 60,000 Microsoft Cloud tenants, blocking Railway domains. Victims span 344 entities: construction, law firms, nonprofits, real estate, manufacturing, finance, healthcare, government, and public safety. Attackers weaponized Railway's platform as a service to spin up credential harvesting infrastructure. Railway banned associated accounts and blocked domains after Huntress notification on March 6, but Huntress continued observing 50-plus daily compromises tied to Railway domains. Action: block Railway. COM IP infrastructure at email gateway. Review Microsoft conditional access policies for device code flow restrictions. Hunt for OAuth tokens granted via device authentication flow since February. Restrict device code authentication flow to trusted devices. Monitor for unusual OAuth consent grants. Sources, Cyberscoop. DoJ takes down DDoS botnets. Law enforcement wiped Asaru, Kimwolf, Jackskid, and Mossad botnets behind some of the largest DDoS attacks ever recorded. The botnets amassed 3M+ infected devices, routers, IP cameras, DVRs with weak credentials and rare patching. Authorities removed command and control servers. Operators sold botnet access to other criminals who targeted victims, including U.S. systems. Some DDoS attacks caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses through remediation expenses or ransom demands. No arrests announced, but 2 suspects associated with Asaru/Kimwolf are based in Canada and Germany. All 4 botnets are Mirai variants, source code leaked in 2016. Sources, The Hacker News. Mazda discloses breach exposing 692 records. Mazda Motor Corporation announced a breach after attackers exploited a vulnerability in a warehouse management system for parts from Thailand. The breach exposed 692 records, including user ID, full names, email addresses, company names, and business partner ID. No customer data was affected. Mazda notified Japan's Personal Information Protection Commission and implemented additional security measures, reduced internet exposure, applied security patches, increased monitoring, and stricter access policies. No misuse detected. Klopp Ransomware Group listed Mazda, Com and Mazda USA. Com on leak site in November 2025, though Mazda never officially confirmed that incident. Sources, Bleeping Computer. Navia Benefit Solutions breach affects 2. 6M US-based employee benefits administrator disclosed a breach affecting 2. 6M+ individuals after unauthorized access and potential data exfiltration occurred December 22, 2025, January 15, 2026. Exposed information may include personal, health, and benefits data. Sources, Checkpoint Research. Aura breach exposes 900K records. Identity protection firm Aura was breached after a phone phishing attack let an intruder access an employee account and marketing platform. The actor obtained 900,000 records, mostly names and emails. Core systems and identity protection services were not compromised. Sources, Checkpoint Research. Puerto Rico Water Authority confirms cyber attack. Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, which manages the territory's water supply, confirmed a cyber attack exposing customer and employee information. Network segmentation limited the incident to business data and administrative environments. Critical infrastructure was unaffected. Sources, Checkpoint Research. Intuitive Robotic Surgery breach. U.S.-based robotic surgery company Intuitive suffered a data breach after a targeted phishing incident led to a compromised employee account. Exposed information includes customer contact details, employee data, and corporate records. The company says DaVinci and Ion surgical platforms were unaffected. Sources, Checkpoint Research. Schools targeted in rising cyber attacks. Hackers increasingly target school districts as easy sources of personal data. A nationwide data breach exposed millions of K-12 students' information in Cranford and Milburn, NJ. Checkpoint reports U.S. Schools now see 3,000 plus attack attempts weekly. New Jersey signed on as a statewide member of Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, MSSEC, in November 2025, paying $795K annually, covering 1,354 eligible organizations. But only 177 have signed up. Nearly 60% of IT and security professionals have been told to keep breaches confidential, 38% increase since 2023, creating a culture of silence that allows cyber threats to proliferate. Recent Texas incidents, Valley View ISD, Eanes ISD, Clarksville ISD, describe operational impacts while withholding technical specifics. Ransomware claims later circulated online, but districts never publicly acknowledged them. Sources: data breaches, net data breaches, net. GitHub malware problem. GitHub is becoming a distribution platform for malware disguised as legitimate software repositories. What started as infrequent sightings in early 2024 is now at the center of increasing InfoSec reports. Threat actors take legitimate repositories, add malware, typically in FOSS or RATs, and upload booby-trap repos back to GitHub. Attackers share links via social media, forums, black hat SEO, or malvertising campaigns to lure users to malicious repos. Sources: data breaches, net. Copyright infringement phishing campaign. A phishing campaign targets healthcare, government, hospitality, and education sectors across multiple countries using copyright infringement notices to hide in FOSS dealers. The campaign uses several evasion techniques to avoid detection. Sources: dark reading. Next section: Windows/AD security. Microsoft Exchange Online Service issue. Microsoft is addressing an ongoing service issue, X1,256,020, that has intermittently prevented users from accessing Exchange Online mailboxes via Outlook mobile and Mac clients since Thursday. The root cause was a newly introduced virtual account. Microsoft is reverting the change after failing to fix the problem by restarting infrastructure. The company flagged this as an incident, indicating critical user impact. This follows another Exchange Online outage 1 week ago, preventing mailbox and calendar access, and a January incident blocking email via a MAP4 action. Apply emergency patch when available. Monitor Microsoft 365 Admin Center for updates. Consider deploying workarounds for affected users. Sources: bleeping computer. Windows 11 promises vs. Reality. Windows boss Pavan Davuluri posted lengthy promises to fix Windows 11's failings, but offered no apologies for bugs and unwanted AI. Promises include movable taskbar returning, reduced Windows update forced restarts, file explorer fixes, lower resource usage, and faster performance. Microsoft will reduce unnecessary Copilot entry points in snipping tool, photos, widgets, and Notepad. Davuluri wrote Windows is evolving into an agentic OS in November 2025, read negative comments, and acknowledged unhappiness 4 months later. Changes will unfold over 2026, meaning long waits before users feel impact. Missing from post: sorry, apologize, or acknowledgement of QA failures. Sources: the register. Microsoft fixes broken update days. After promising fewer broken updates, Microsoft released an out-of-band update to resolve bugs introduced by March 2026 security update, days after promising improved reliability. The fix addresses a no internet error when signing into Microsoft apps despite working connections. Microsoft Entra ID users unaffected. The out-of-band update includes everything in March 10 security update plus the fix. This comes days after Windows boss promised an era of reliability and stability. Users downloading another out-of-band fix might prefer Microsoft focus on shipping code that works. Sources: the register. CVE 2026-4438 and CVE 2026-4437, Microsoft published advisories for CVE 2026-4438. Gethysbeater and Gethysbeater R return invalid DNS hostnames. And CVE 2026-4437. Gethysbeater and Gethysbeater R may incorrectly handle DNS response. Both have low EPSS scores 0, 0, 11th and 5th percentiles respectively. Sources: MSRC Security Update Guide, MSRC Security Update Guide. Next section: General Security News. Mandiant MTrends 2026. Diverging adversary timelines. Google's Mandiant released MTrends 2026 based on 500,000 plus hours of incident investigations in 2025. Key findings: global median dwell time rose to 14 days from 11 days. Cyber espionage and North Korean IT worker incidents had 122-day median. Exploits remained top initial infection vector, 32%, sixth consecutive year. Voice phishing surged to 11%, second most common, becoming one tactic for cloud break-ins. Email phishing dropped to 6%. Organizations detected 52% of intrusions internally, up from 43% in 2024. High-tech sector, 17%, became most targeted industry, displacing financial sector, 14.6%. Handoff window collapsed from 8+ hours in 2022 to 22 seconds in 2025. As initial access partners, pre-stage secondary groups tools during initial infection. Prior compromise ranked third initial infection vector, 10%, globally and top in ransomware, 30%, doubling from 15% in 2024. Adversaries optimize for extremes. Cybercriminals optimize for speed and recovery denial. Espionage groups optimize for extreme persistence using unmonitored edge devices. Action: strengthen MFA policies, voice phishing bypasses traditional MFA. Implement behavioral monitoring for IT help desk interactions. Monitor edge devices, firewalls, routers, VPN with endpoint security. Reduce time between initial access and secondary threat group deployment. Investigate prior compromises as potential ransomware precursors. Sources: Google Threat Intelligence, The Register. Talos Year in Review. Lightning-fast exploits. Cisco Talos published its 2025 review describing a year of pace and scale that put pressure on security teams, partly due to attackers' use of AI. Talos was shocked by how quickly criminals weaponized vulnerabilities, pointing to December's React 2 shell becoming the most targeted vuln of the year despite December disclosure. Near-instant weaponization is driven by automated tooling and widespread internet exposure, leaving defenders little to no time between disclosure and active abuse. Attackers settled on identity control points as primary targets. Compromising VPNs or ADCs means easy lateral movement, enhanced access, MFA bypass, and persistence. Network management software, vCenter, Cisco Security Manager, area operations, is less tightly monitored than edge appliances. Phishing began 40% of intrusion cases in 2025. Modern phishing lures are more sophisticated. AI helps overcome language barriers. Messages came from spoofed or compromised accounts 75% of the time. AI primarily improved elements of existing attacks in 2025, but Talos predicts AI will soon become fundamental back-end cybercrime infrastructure. Action: prioritize patches for network software and appliances dealing with access management. Patch fast with smaller reaction windows. Strengthen anti-phishing training to recognize sophisticated lures. Review email authentication controls, DMARC, SBF, DKIM. Sources: The Register. Talos blog. CrowdStrike Falcon Next-Gen. SIEM supports third-party EDR. CrowdStrike is expanding Falcon Next-Gen SIEM to support third-party EDR solutions, starting with Microsoft Defender, with no Falcon sensor required. This enables organizations to modernize SOC without replacing existing endpoint agents. New enhancements include Falcon ONM, real-time data control delivering up to 5 times faster streaming and 50% storage cost reduction, federated search, investigate everywhere, ingest what matters, and third-party intelligence integration. Sources: CrowdStrike. Google unleashes Gemini AI on dark web. Google's Gemini AI agents crawl the dark web analyzing 8-10 million posts daily to find threats relevant to specific organizations. Available now in public preview, the Dark Web Intelligence Service built into Google Threat Intelligence uses Gemini to build organization profiles and scour the dark web for security risks. Internal tests show 98% accuracy. Traditional dark web monitoring tools mostly scrape for key terms using regex, generating 80-90% false positives. Gemini builds customer profiles within minutes, returns alerts going back 7 days, and performs vector comparison to detect stolen data or malicious activity. The service tracks initial access broker activity, data leaks, insider threats, and other intel. Gemini also pulls in knowledge from Google Threat Intelligence Group's 627 tracked threat groups. Sources: The Register. AWS Bedrock Attack Vectors. XM Cyber Threat Research Team identified 8 attack vectors in AWS Bedrock environments spanning log manipulation, knowledge base compromise, agent hijacking, flow injection, guardrail degradation, and prompt poisoning. Vectors include 1. Model invocation log, attacks redirecting logs to attacker-controlled buckets or scrubbing evidence. 2. Knowledge-based data source, attacks bypassing models to pull raw data or stealing SAS credentials for lateral movement. 3. Knowledge-based data store, attacks intercepting credentials for vector databases, Pinecone, Redis, or AWS native stores, Aurora, Redshift. 4. Direct agent attacks, rewriting base prompts or attaching malicious executors. 5. Indirect agent attacks via Lambda function code updates. Each vector starts with low-level permissions and ends at critical assets. Action: review IAM policies for Bedrock permissions, Bedrock, put model invocation logging configuration, Bedrock, update agent, Bedrock, create agent Lambda, update function code. Enable CloudTrail logging for Bedrock API calls. Implement least privilege access for Bedrock resources. Monitor S3 bucket access for log redirection. Rotate credentials for knowledge base integrations. Sources: The Hacker News. Passwordless Authentication Research Palo Alto Networks, Unit 42, published Part 2 of Passkey Security Research, examining Google Authenticator and Sync Passkeys. The research explores hidden mechanisms behind Sync Passkeys and their implementation within the Google ecosystem. Whenever users authenticate with passkeys backed by Google Password Manager across desktop platforms, a connection is made to Enclave, UA5v.com. As of January 2026, searching for this domain yields little public information despite powering logins worldwide. The research deliberately thinks like attackers, asking where passkeys live, how they move, how they sync, and which components handle sensitive operations. This revealed a surprisingly broad and largely unexplored attack surface. Sources: Unit 42. OpenAI, ChatGPT, library feature. OpenAI rolled out a new feature called Library for ChatGPT, allowing users to store personal files or images on OpenAI's cloud storage. The feature requires Plus, Pro, and Business tiers and is rolling out globally except EEA, Switzerland, and UK. ChatGPT automatically saves uploaded and created files in a dedicated, secure location so they can be accessed later. By default, GPT saves uploaded files including documents, spreadsheets, presentations, and images. Deleting a chat containing a file does not delete files saved to library. Users must manually delete files. OpenAI removes files from servers within 30 days of deletion. Action: review ChatGPT library for sensitive files uploaded in chats. Delete any files containing confidential business information. Establish policy on ChatGPT. File uploads for employees. Sources: Bleeping Computer. EU broadcasters warn on smart TV gatekeepers. Europe's broadcasters say smart TVs and voice assistants are becoming the next big tech gatekeepers, with little sign of Brussels intervention. An open letter to European Commission, Executive Vice President Teresa Ribera urges bringing connected TV operating systems and virtual assistants within Digital Markets Act scope. The concern is the software layer deciding what gets shown. Recommendations, search, app visibility now controls access in the same way app stores and search engines do, but without the same regulatory scrutiny. No connected TV platforms or virtual assistants have been designated as gatekeepers. Broadcasters fear being quietly edged out of view on devices audiences use to access TV and radio. Sources: The Register. Next section: Patch Priority. Connect Wise Screen Connect, CVE 2026-3564. Critical Crypto Flaw, MSB, Managed Service Provider, Wide Risk, Immediate Update Required. Citrix NetScaler ADC/Gateway, CVE 2026-3055, CVE 2026-4368, CVSS 9.3 Memory Leak, History of Exploitation, Patch to 14.166. 59 or 13. 162. 23. Zimbra Collaboration Suite, CVE 2025-66376. Active exploitation confirmed, CISAKEV deadline April 1, upgrade to 10.1.13/10.0.18. Ubiquiti Unify Network Application, CVE 2026-22557, maximum severity path traversal, update immediately. Triv verify legitimate version 0.69.3 or earlier, rotate all exposed secrets, check for 0.69.5/0.69.6 in CI/CD. Next section: Vulnerability Disclosures. CVE 2026-3564, Connect Wise Screen Connect, Critical Cryptographic Signature Verification Flaw, allowing session authentication without authorization and privilege escalation. Widely deployed by MSBs. CVE 2026-3055, Citrix NetScaler, CVSS 9.3 unauthenticated memory overread allowing sensitive data leaks from ADC/gateway appliances configured as SAML IDPs, similar to Citrix bleed attacks, patch to 14.166, 59 or 13, 162, 23. CVE 2026-4368, Citrix NetScaler, CVSS 7.7 race condition leading to user session mixup on gateway/AAA configurations, patch to 14.166, 59 or 13, 162, 23. CVE 2025-66376, Zimbra, stored XSS under active exploitation, CISA KEV deadline April 1, EPSS 0.193rd percentile. Patch to 10.1.13 or 10.0.18. CVE 2026-33017, Langflow, critical unauthenticated RCE and AI agent framework, weaponized within 20 hours of disclosure, EPSS 0.5, 64th percentile. Checkpoint IPS provides protection. CVE 2026-22557, Ubiquiti Uni, Phi, maximum severity unauthenticated path traversal in Uni-Fi network application 10.1.85, and earlier allowing file access, account compromise, and system control. CVE 2026-32746, GNU Inet Utils, CVSS 9.8 RCE and Telnet-D affecting all versions up to 2.7, EPSS 0.0, 7th percentile. Disable Telnet-D immediately. CVE 2026-20131, added to CISA, KEV with deadline March 22, ransomware linked, EPSS 0.6, 71st percentile. CVE 2026-4438, Gethysbeater and Gethysbeater R return invalid DNS hostnames, EPSS 0.0, 11th percentile. CVE 2026-4437, Gethysbeater and Gethysbeater R may incorrectly handle DNS response, EPSS 0.0, 5th percentile. Next section, Trends and Context. Voice phishing surged in 2025 to become the second most common initial access method across all incidents and the top tactic for cloud break-ins, while email phishing dropped to just 6% as AI helps attackers overcome language barriers and mimic business communications. Handoff window between initial access and ransomware deployment collapsed from 8+ hours in 2022 to 22 seconds in 2025, as attackers pre-stage secondary payloads during initial infection. Supply chain attacks targeting developer infrastructure, Trivi, and tax-themed phishing deploying RMM tools demonstrate how attackers blend legitimate services and social engineering at scale, forcing defenders to balance patching speed against increasingly sophisticated threats that weaponize vulnerabilities within hours of disclosure. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech, stay patched, stay vigilant.